Are you still struggling with the pelvic floor, even though that you have been doing all the right things? If you're a successful woman, chances are that you are used to getting things done, to research and get to the bottom of things. But maybe you have been leaving sensual pleasure outside of the equation. And if this is you, please stay tuned because in this episode you will discover what's behind this at a nervous system level and what you need to do to improve your pelvic floor fast. I am Candia Raquel. I am a Mexican sensualist, scientist, and artist. I am a somatic movement master teacher, and you are at the Sensual Sessions Podcast, the place to explore sensing pleasure through your senses and moving in a way that it's free from inhibition and full of self expression. And this is a special episode in the series of pelvic floor sensuality, where I'll share with you some insights on pelvic floor anatomy and somatic movement that we will cover in depth in the coming 4-week online pelvic floor awakening course. So stay to the end because I will share with you the link to join for free the 5-day pelvic floor challenge. So there's a reason why the pelvic floor is not responding to anything that you may be doing so far, such as exercises, supplements, even devices, or I don't know, maybe therapy. And the thing is that the pelvic floor is a set of muscles that have a different anatomy composition than most of the rest of the muscles. The pelvic floor are stabilizer muscles, and the other muscles are mobilizers. And what comes in this stabilizer versus mobilizer package is also a specific wiring to the nervous system. So, as the name says, a stabilizer keeps things in place and the mobilizer move things. So different nervous system pathways activate, say, the glutes versus the pelvic floor. And why does this matters? Well, because the stabilizing fibers of the pelvic floor require that the nervous system be in a rest and digestion mode, meaning you're gonna be relaxed, soaking in pleasure in order just for the pelvic floor to be connected to the nervous system. Which means that if you are under stress, putting off fires, preparing for an important meeting, juggling between the kids and your elderly parents and a new business deal, and your nervous system is kind of fried, that means that your nervous system is going to be full on survival mode into thinking, planning, emails, doing. And no matter what you do, your pelvic floor is not going to respond. On the contrary, you're going to train for disconnection and dissonance. So I want to share the story of Alice, a client that came with me to work on her pelvic floor. She's an academic from the university. She's, I think, probably around 75 years old, and she's very active. She has just came back from giving a conference in China. She's a financier, an economist specialist in finances, and she's also passionately active in her marriage with her beloved, yes, after 70 years old. And she was really concerned that she was experiencing leaking for the first time in her life after having 3 kids and hormonal changes and everything. Nothing affected her to the point of disrupting her pelvic floor, except a very difficult situation that she was dealing with on top of her like successful career and family and everything. And she was like under a lot of stress. She was even taking sleeping aid and stuff to calm herself down. And on top of that came the pelvic floor frustration that she was like really angry that she's used to having the reins of her life, and she felt out of control when she couldn't control her bladder. And she went to a doctor. She got a device to put into the pelvic floor that would register the movement of the pelvic floor along the vagina and all the sphincters, and she could track in her iPhone the movements with the pelvic floor. And she had like a homework to do, and it was very frustrating for her to swallow the discomfort of the device, of having like her pride affected, thinking that she was too old and all of that stuff. And on top of that, not getting any results with the device. So she came to me, and we began working with somatic movement, and especially within the scope of non-arousal sensuality, meaning just opening to welcome the pleasurable sensations of the body, whichever may be, without uh, aiming for sexuality or climax or orgasm, meaning pleasure just for the sake of it. And jumping forward to a week later, she had regained full control of her pelvic floor, like 100%. She was very happy to throw her very expensive device, that it was an intravaginal device wired. No, it was Bluetooth to the iPhone, and she even sent me the picture of the device inside the bin. And the thing is that she worked at the root cause. She worked with her nervous system to shift into this rest and digest mode, to move away from survival. And by getting into rest and digest mode in her nervous system, she beheld the proper context for the stabilizing muscles of the pelvic floor to awaken and to resume its natural functioning. For her, the priority was bladder control, but not only that, she was very happy to report that she also rekindled the flame romantically with her beloved husband, which is an added benefit of tending to the pelvic floor in a very gentle, respectful, way, which is also the most efficient way. Like if you embody the sensitivity of your pelvic floor as part of your lifestyle, naturally the pelvic floor will be like more than available and happy and ready to delight on intimacy. And still, if that's not your thing, or if that's exactly your thing, the principle is the same here in this pelvic floor awakening approach, that is moving from the natural breath. We want to work with our body, not to impose a framework to our body, like approaches like these devices or Kegels or any kind of disciplinary external framing stuff that it's not only idle, but sometimes it can even be detrimental. So, how to improve your pelvic floor, especially if you are a successful woman that deals with a lot of stress, that uh, manages a lot of responsibility, that has a nervous system that has to process a lot of difficulty. How you begin to tend to your pelvic floor? Well, first is you want to shift from the nervous system modus operandi of survival to the nervous system modus operandi of rest and restoration. And it might be challenging at first because we feel that we have a lot of control in survival mode. An example is the muscles. We can easily contract the glutes when we are in survival mode because you can use your glutes to run away, you can use your glutes to fight and jump on top of your enemy, and you can even use your glutes and the rest of these very strong muscles to freeze. Whatever is the best thing in survival mode, like you can do things. And the challenging thing here on shifting to the other side of the nervous system is to making the decision to not do, to rest, to lean back, let things happen instead of making them happen, and most importantly, to trust your body and trust the process rather than the outcome. And in this specific case of the pelvic floor, is this context of trust and beholding and safety that that produces the environment for the pelvic floor to come back to its natural doings. So once you have this rest and digest mode, it's almost as if you open yourself to pleasure, which stimulates oxytocin production, which is what we want to reinforce this nervous system parasympathetic dominance to connect with the pelvic floor. And then the very nuanced sensations of these very intimate muscles will come to flourish into the surface of your awareness. You will be able to say, that's my pelvic floor. It's so gentle. It feels so good. So we cover all of this in depth in my 4-week pelvic floor awakening course that is coming up soon. And today I'm going to share with you the base practice that is the natural breathing. And it has 3 steps. So I'm going to talk you through them. It's a very easy practice that you can try every day as much as you can. So step number 1, is to notice your breath. Notice how you're breathing. And elaborate on the exhale. Notice if you can let yourself fully exhale. Normally, we are in such a rush and so anxious that we cut our exhale in half and rush to inhale. So, see if you can not do that. If you can just let it be and get curious on what's the very end of your exhale. Notice how far you can go in your exhale. And chances are that your exhale is actually way longer than you thought or than you're used to. So we are not doing anything, we are just letting it happen. We are getting ourselves out of the way. And probably you are noticing a shift in the state of your awareness. Probably you're feeling calmer because as soon as you let yourself fully exhale, your nervous system will do its best to recover homeostasis, to rebalance naturally. And with this comes shifting into rest and digest mode, into a more pleasurable, restful state. So, this is the first step. The second step is to notice the shape of your breath. Notice how you become wider on the inhalation and how your body draws to the inside on the exhalation. All your torso moves. What's more evident at first is the expansion in the low belly. But if you pay close attention, you will also notice the expansion to the sides of your waist and the sides of your rib cage. And now, very interestingly, perhaps you can notice a gentle expansion between your legs. Maybe you notice that every time you inhale, there's a softening and a widening in the crotch. And then it draws back in on the exhale. See if you can notice this natural ebb and flow of the movement of your body, the shape of your body as you breathe. How you expand and contract naturally. And the third step is to notice if you can naturally let your pelvic floor draw inside your body on the very end of the exhale. And if you can allow your pelvic floor to naturally expand and let go without collapsing on the inhale. So it's this like pulsation of your whole body, but we are focused specifically on the pelvic floor. It's like a pulsation, very gentle and very sensuous. It's pleasurable. It's pleasurable, especially because it's easy. You are not doing anything. You are in rest and digest mode. You're like Cleopatra, just like they're contemplating the Nile River and delighting in the natural, nuanced movement of the pelvic floor as you breathe. Okay, that's step number 3. So practice this when you wake up or before going to sleep, whenever you can. And what we are trying to restore here is a natural breathing pattern. So we are not imposing anything. On the contrary, we are dismantling the parasitic tensions that have gotten in the way in the first place of our breath and therefore our pelvic floor uh, function. So, natural breathing is a fundamental doing of the pelvic floor. And yes, we want the pelvic floor for all of the sexy activities, sexuality. It's important on childbirth. It's important for bladder control, for bowel movement, for posture. But the number one function of the pelvic floor is to support breathing. And the gift of training the pelvic floor this way is very strategic because we breathe 22,000 times a day. Let me repeat that. 22,000. 22,000 times a day we breathe using the pelvic floor. And the good news is that if you're breathing, you are alive. And if you are alive, you are breathing. So as long as you are alive, optimally or less than optimally, your pelvic floor is somehow working, even though you may have prolapse or whatever problem you may have. Do know that if you are alive, your pelvic floor is doing already a big part of its work. And what we are working here is it's a very loving approach to support the pelvic floor on its basic doing, that it's breathing. And if we have accomplished that, if in this little practice you improved even a 1% of your breathing, of your pelvic floor involvement in breathing, you're going to improve your pelvic floor because it's something you do a lot of times every day, and you will improve the quality of your life. So this is the core strategy in pelvic floor awakening, to remove the parasitic tensions in the pelvic floor within the breathing pattern. So you have your pelvic floor working for you, training for you 24/7 on autopilot. So the natural outcome is that in a matter of weeks, days, even hours, you will notice, if not an immediate improvement in the sensitivity of your pelvic floor and in bladder control, bowel movement, uh, sensitivity to pleasure and climax, and even no more low back pain, better posture, and everything. So this is at the core of pelvic floor awakening. We will go through all of this in detail in 4 weeks online. Registrations are coming soon. And in the meantime, I invite you to join the 5-day pelvic floor challenge. It's free. You can join now clicking the link that is in the description below, or going to my website, which is my name, candiaraquel.com/pelvic floor challenge. And there you are. In less than 2 minutes, you will have the first practice on your email. So again, it's my name, www.candiaraquel.com/pelvic floor awakening. And I hope to see you inside the challenge. And until next time, do remember to take the time to sense your fire so you can share the flame.